The night before my flight, everything was packed. My bag sat neatly by the bedroom door. My suitcase was zipped shut. There was nothing left to organize, nothing left to prepare. All that remained was goodbye. I sat quietly on the edge of the bed, staring at the familiar walls and the ceiling I had looked at every day for the past 5 years. This house had once felt like home. Now it felt like a place I no longer recognized. My phone rang. I glanced at the screen. "Mom," I answered. "Son, are you sure?" she asked softly. "Yes, Mom." She sighed. "Things happen in life. We have to learn how to forgive and sometimes forget." I lowered my head. "I can't, Mom. I'm hurt. I'm broken." There was silence before she spoke again. "If you ever decide to come home, your father and I will welcome you with open arms." A lump formed in my throat. "Thank you, Mom. Please think this through carefully, son." "I have. I love you. I love you too, Mom. I'll see you soon." We hung up. The room fell silent again. Then I looked up. Elizabeth, my wife of 5 years, stood in the bedroom doorway, tears streaming down her face. She stared at me as though she were searching for one last reason to stop me. Her voice trembled. "Do we really have to do this?" Those 6 words hit me like a bolt of lightning. In an instant, every memory came crashing back. It had started as the most ordinary day imaginable. It was my day off, and I was running errands around town, checking things off my usual list. Nothing felt unusual. Nothing felt out of place. A few days earlier, Elizabeth had ordered a dress online. When it arrived, it was the wrong color. Since her favorite boutique had an outlet near our neighborhood, I decided I'd surprise her by exchanging it for the one she actually wanted. After finishing most of my errands, I realized my remaining appointments weren't until much later that afternoon. I had plenty of time. I'd run home, grab the dress, exchange it, and surprise my wife. Or so I thought. As I reached for the passenger seat, I realized the dress wasn't there. I had forgotten it at home. I laughed at myself, turned the car around, and headed back. As I pulled onto our street, something immediately caught my attention. A car. It was parked in my spot. I slowed down. I'd never seen that vehicle before. I didn't recognize it. For a moment, I reached for my phone to call Elizabeth and ask who was visiting. But something stopped me. A feeling, one I couldn't explain. Instead of calling, I opened an app on my phone. A few months earlier, after several package thefts in our neighborhood, I had installed a Ring doorbell camera. I had never told Elizabeth. As far as she knew, it was just an ordinary doorbell. The live feed loaded. Seconds later, I heard the front door open. Elizabeth greeted a man. Their conversation sounded comfortable, too comfortable. The kind of comfort that only exists between two people who know each other far better than they should. Then she invited him inside. My stomach tightened. A wave of nausea washed over me. The front door closed. Silence. I stared at the screen for another moment before shutting the app off. Without thinking, I parked my car down the street beside my neighbor's yard. I stepped out quietly. Keeping low, I slipped through my neighbor's backyard until I reached the fence separating our properties. Anyone watching would have thought I was a burglar. I climbed over, dropped into my yard, moved carefully toward the back porch. During the day, we always left the sliding glass door unlocked. Not because the neighborhood was especially safe, but because it was convenient. I slowly opened the door, slid inside, closed it without making a sound. Every heartbeat echoed in my ears. I tiptoed through the kitchen and into the hallway. Then I heard it. Not voices, not conversation. Kissing. Soft moans. The unmistakable sounds of intimacy. My heart stopped. Everything inside me shattered. For one terrifying moment, my eyes drifted toward the kitchen counter, toward the knife block. A voice inside my head screamed at me to grab one. Another voice, quieter but stronger, begged me not to destroy my life over one irreversible decision. I froze. Then I walked forward, slowly, quietly. I stepped into the living room. There they were, Elizabeth, curled up on the couch with another man, locked in each other's arms. Only a few pieces of clothing separated them from crossing a line they had clearly intended to cross. I cleared my throat. The room went silent. Elizabeth's eyes shot open. She jumped back in horror. "What the hell is this?" I shouted. Panic spread across her face. The man froze. My vision blurred with rage. I lunged toward him. Just before I reached him, Elizabeth screamed, "No, James, don't." I stopped for half a second. Why? Why was she protecting him? I looked at her in disbelief. "Who is he?" She couldn't answer. "I need an explanation, right now. James, please." That was all she managed before I grabbed him by the shirt and drove my fist into his face. He stumbled backward. I hit him again, then kicked him toward the front door. "Get the hell out of my house." He looked ready to fight back, but after seeing the fury in my eyes, he thought better of it. Without another word, he turned and ran. The front door slammed behind him. Silence filled the room. Elizabeth collapsed into tears. I stood there breathing heavily, my fists clenched. "Explain." She looked up at me through tear-filled eyes. "James, this isn't what you think." I laughed bitterly. "Not what I think?" I pointed toward the couch. "Another minute, and the two of you would have been sleeping together right there." My voice cracked. "And you're telling me this isn't what I think?" "James, please, listen to me. This isn't what you think." A few days passed. The morning of my departure finally arrived. I picked up my house keys, stood there for a moment, then quietly placed them on the kitchen counter. 5 years of memories, reduced to a small ring of metal left behind. I grabbed my suitcase and backpack and walked out the front door without looking back. An Uber was already waiting at the curb. The driver stepped out, loaded my bags into the trunk, and I climbed into the back seat. Just before the car pulled away, I looked through the window one last time. Elizabeth stood in the doorway. Her eyes were swollen and red from crying. Her hair was messy, as if she hadn't slept all night. She looked completely broken. Our eyes met for only a second. Then I turned away. "Airport, please," I said quietly. The driver nodded and pulled away. The airport was crowded, yet I had never felt more alone. I checked my bags, collected my boarding pass, passed through security, and sat quietly at the departure gate. Time seemed to stop. Every memory from the last few days replayed in my mind. Then the memories stretched further back. 5 years, our first date, our wedding, the nights we laughed until we couldn't breathe, the promises we made, the future we dreamed of. Every beautiful moment was now poisoned by a single betrayal. The boarding announcement echoed through the terminal. I stood, walked to the gate, handed over my passport, scanned my boarding pass, then stepped onto the aircraft. The moment I settled into my seat, exhaustion overwhelmed me. Within seconds, I was asleep. But sleep brought no peace, only nightmares. I dreamed of Elizabeth. I dreamed of the bedroom. I dreamed of opening the door over and over again. Each time, I hoped the ending would change. Each time, it never did. It felt like my mind was trapped inside an endless loop, replaying the worst day of my life. For a moment, I honestly wondered if I was losing my sanity. The nightmare continued until the violent thud of the landing gear striking the runway jolted me awake. My eyes opened. For a second, I didn't know where I was. Then, reality returned. I was home. After clearing immigration and collecting my luggage, I walked through the arrivals gate. My mother spotted me immediately. She ran toward me with tears streaming down her face and wrapped me in the tightest hug she'd ever given me. "My baby, welcome home." I hugged her back. For the first time in days, I felt safe. My father approached more slowly, just as I remembered him. Calm, quiet, strong. He placed one hand on my shoulder. "It'll be all right, son." I nodded. "Yeah, I know." The drive home was almost completely silent. No one knew what to say. The only sound inside the car was the soft music coming from the radio. It filled every empty space. It drowned out the silence. It even drowned out my thoughts. When we finally arrived home, Mom led me to my old bedroom. She had kept everything exactly the way I had left it. The room was spotless. The bed was freshly made. Nothing had changed. I dropped my bags onto the floor, collapsed onto the mattress, and within seconds, I was asleep. I didn't wake until the following morning. The first thing I heard was my phone ringing. It was my boss. "James, your transfer has been officially approved," he said. "You can return to work whenever you're ready. There's no pressure. If you'd rather work from home for a while, that's perfectly fine." "Thank you," I replied. After the call, I opened my laptop. Everything had already been set up. Years earlier, I had worked in this city before transferring to Elizabeth's hometown after we got married. Thankfully, my company had offices in both locations, making the transfer back surprisingly simple. For the next several weeks, I buried myself in work. I convinced myself that staying busy would help me forget. But no matter how much work I completed, my mind always found its way back to Elizabeth, back to that room, back to that day. A few days later, my phone rang again. The caller ID read, "Jamie, Elizabeth's 14-year-old daughter." Jamie had been in my life for years. Although I wasn't her biological father, she had always called me Dad, and I had always treated her like she was my own. I answered. "Hey, Jamie." She sounded frightened. "Dad, Mom's in the hospital." My heart sank. "What happened?" "She started drinking after you left. She hasn't been eating. She just kept drinking every day." I closed my eyes. "Is she all right?" "She's doing better now." There was a pause. "She wants to see you." I frowned. "Why?" "She says she needs to apologize. She wants to tell you everything." I remained silent. Finally, I sighed. "All right, I'll come." A few days later, I packed only a small backpack and boarded another flight. This wasn't a trip to start over. It was a trip for closure. When I entered Elizabeth's hospital room, she was sitting beside the window. Her eyes looked empty, lost, but the moment she saw me, they filled with life again. "James," she smiled weakly, "you're back." I pulled up a chair beside her bed. "Elizabeth." I looked at her carefully. "Why would you do this to yourself?" Tears filled her eyes. "I couldn't live with what I'd done." "You have Jamie." "I know. She needs you." "I know." She lowered her head. "I just couldn't stop hurting." After several moments of silence, I leaned forward. "Go ahead." She looked confused. "What?" Tell me how long." Her face went pale. She knew exactly what I meant. "It started about 2 months ago. At first it was just conversations, then coffee." She wiped away another tear. "I swear to you, James, the day you caught us was the first time anything physical had ever happened." I stared at her. "That's hard to believe." "I know, but it's the truth." She sobbed quietly. "If you hadn't caught us, maybe it would have gone further." She paused. "Thank God you did." I looked away. "You still betrayed me." "I know. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to earn your forgiveness." I shook my head. "I don't think I'll ever be able to forgive you." She closed her eyes. "I understand, but I'll never stop hoping." The room fell silent once again. Finally, I stood. "My lawyer will send the divorce papers." "I don't want your money. I don't want the house. I don't want anything. I just want peace." Tears streamed uncontrollably down her face. Before leaving, I looked back one last time. "Take care of yourself, Elizabeth. If not for yourself, then for Jamie." Without another word, I walked away. Life slowly settled into a new routine. Weeks passed. Jamie continued calling almost every day. She updated me on her mother's progress. "Mom's out of the hospital now. She's stopped drinking. She's looking for a job." I smiled. "I'm glad she's trying." Then Jamie asked the question I had been dreading. Dad, when are you coming home? I took a deep breath. I'll always be there whenever you need me. But I don't think your mom and I can ever be together again. There was silence. Then she whispered, I still pray you'll forgive her. I hope one day we'll be a family again. I smiled sadly. It's good to have hope. Never lose that. I don't know what the future holds, but if you ever need me, you call. I'll always answer. She sniffled. I know. And I hope that if Mom ever needs you, you'll answer too. I looked out my window. I don't know, but maybe. She laughed softly. All Mom needs is one more chance. I promise. One day I'll make you my dad again. I'll bring our family back together. I couldn't help but laugh. Your imagination is something else, Jamie. It may be imagination today, she replied, but one day it'll become reality. I smiled. Have a good day, kiddo. And remember, no matter what happens, I'll always love you. The call ended. I sat there staring out the window, wondering if some hearts are simply too broken to ever be put back together again, or if somehow hope really could accomplish the impossible.